Welcome back to Sissy Maya. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to never miss an update. Additionally, consider subscribing to my Patreon to get access to these features, and much more.
Lorraine handed Sharon the information she requested about Clive Vander Wal. Sharon reported, "He's known for abusing his wife, though he hasn't cheated or harmed his kids. His preference is to beat his wife when he feels like it," said Sharon, a private investigator with the Woman's Help Corp. Lorraine, who owned and coordinated WHC, inquired about Barbara Vander Wal's stance on the marriage. Does she want to continue with it? Barbara doesn't want a divorce. Clive threatened a messy legal battle if she ever filed, and she's worried about losing custody due to his connections in the courts, Sharon replied. Lorraine asked if WHC's information had been shared with Barbara. "Maybe we can find a solution," she suggested. "Yes, she's aware," Sharon confirmed. "Anything else?" Lorraine inquired. Sharon continued, "Another lawyer I work with has a unique case. It involves a man repeatedly abused by his wife. That's unusual but not unheard of. It's tough enough to help an abused wife. For a husband, it's even harder since support is scarce," Lorraine remarked. "Has the lawyer explored all options?" "Yes, he has. The wife's brother is the police chief and uses his influence to protect her. The husband tried to report the abuse once and ended up falsely jailed and assaulted by another inmate before his lawyer could intervene. After he left jail, he was warned not to speak out again," Sharon added. "His response was, 'You can't get away with this.' Theirs was, 'Oh yes we can,' just like what happened to Jojo Jones." Lorraine knew about Jojo Jones's case, a black teenager who died in jail under suspicious circumstances blamed on the police. It was widely believed but never proven. "There's a rumor that any black person arrested can expect mistreatment, not from inmates but from the police themselves," Sharon continued. "The police chief seems to have a bias against people of color." Sharon went on, "Since then, the husband has returned to his wife, and the abuse has worsened. His stepson has joined in, protected by his uncle, ensuring no consequences for his actions." "What else does the stepson do?" Lorraine asked. "He frequents Madame Olga's escort service, using it as leverage to keep the police at bay," Sharon explained. "He's into rough activities. The last 3 girls he had ended up in the ER. If Olga stops sending girls, the uncle threatens to shut her down for good. We might have 4 potential clients: the husband, Barbara, the Jonas, and Madame Olga. Please ensure our informational booklet reaches each of them. I have some ideas brewing that will hinge on Barbara and John Desires." Within 3 days, Barbara Vander Wal, John Washington, the Jonas, and Madame Olga had all called and scheduled appointments. Barbara was the first to arrive. After exchanging pleasantries, she got straight to the point. "I want out of this marriage without hurting Clive. I want him in my children's lives, but I can't tolerate his abuse any longer. How can you help me? In most cases I've heard of, you change men into something else and use hypnosis to erase their memories. I want Clive to face consequences for what he's done to me, but I don't want him out of our lives completely. I understand your concerns. You want the abuse to stop, yet you still care for him enough to want him involved in your children's lives," Lorraine acknowledged. "I can work with these parameters. My plan is to use hypnosis to help him stop the abuse and negotiate a fair divorce settlement." "Would that be acceptable to you?" "Yes, as long as I don't have to explain to my children why their father is suddenly different," Barbara agreed. "He will remain Clive Vander Wal. If everything goes according to plan," Lorraine assured her, outlining her strategy. Lorraine proceeded to explain her plan to Barbara. "This process will take some time to set up. Do you think Mr. Washington will agree to this?" Barbara asked. "Yes, I believe he will. He loves his wife, much like you still care for your husband," Lorraine replied. The next client, John Washington, entered Lorraine's office with a hint of apprehension. "Hello, I'm John Washington," he introduced himself. "Don't worry, John. We're here to help you," Lorraine reassured him. From what you've read in our booklet, most of our cases involve men, but our assistance isn't gender exclusive. We help those in need, regardless of gender. In your case, it's you who needs our help. I understand better now. My wife has made my life unbearable. Despite everything, I still love her, but I can't continue living with her, John admitted. Her brother, the chief of police, has threatened me. If I seek legal counsel for a divorce, I'll be arrested again, and it could take a week to get me out. I can't go through that again. If my plan succeeds, you won't have any issues with your wife, stepson, or brother-in-law, Lorraine elaborated. John could only manage. Can you really make that happen? My client, dealing with an abusive husband, wants out of her marriage without harm to him. She wants him around for their kids. I gather you want your wife to experience the other side, right? No, I don't want anything unusual to happen to her. The first step is stopping the beatings. 30 minutes later, John Washington left WHC feeling considerably better than when he arrived. Next up were the Jonas. Nicholas kept questioning his wife. Why are we here? Women's Help Corp sounds like they only assist women. I'd rather be with my friends, planning how to retaliate against the police. Valeria glanced at her husband. I'm not sure what WHC can do for us. According to the booklet we both read, they can accomplish things we can't. As for your meeting, I hope you and your friend know what you're getting into. We've already lost our child. I don't want to lose you too. Just be quiet and listen to what they have to say. As the Jonas were ushered into Lorraine's office, she initiated the conversation. I understand you may be confused. Let me assure you, we're here to help. Our goal aligns, we both want justice for what the chief of police did to your son. How can you help? You're not a lawyer or someone influential. As far as I know, no one knows about WHC. That's deliberate. The fewer who know, the better. We assist those with no other options: a battered wife whose husband has court connections that discredit her claims, another whose husband promised children but underwent a procedure to prevent it, then bragged about infidelity shortly after marriage. What I propose is more effective than your plans. A riot will only bring harm, especially to you and your friends. My police contact informed me they're aware of your intentions, with a copy of your operation plan. Even if you start the riot, they'll have you and your friend arrested within minutes. What do you think will happen then? What are we supposed to do? Sit back while the police threaten our children's lives? Nicholas asked. The police aren't the criminals here, it's the chief of police. My source within the force revealed he was responsible for your son's death. There's no chance the police will incriminate their chief, it's the blue wall of silence. If my husband's friends can't assist, and the police won't help, how can you? Here's my plan. After outlining her plan, Nicholas burst into laughter. I love it, but I doubt you can pull it off. Oh, yes we can. 6 months ago, we had a case involving a mentally abused wife who wanted a divorce from her husband. His girlfriend wanted him to marry her instead. Do you know where they are now? Living in Tijuana. The mistress works as a prostitute, and her boyfriend works odd jobs and sometimes as a prostitute. We transformed the husband into a 38-year-old Mexican woman with an 18-year-old daughter. Neither of them remembers their past lives. If we can do that to 2 people, 1 person will be a piece of cake. Valeria nodded at her husband. Let's proceed with your idea. I think your solution is brilliant, turning him into something he despises. Before we proceed, I must stress our service is highly confidential. We select our clients carefully. Do not share information about us with anyone else. Once you witness what we can do you really want to cross WHC? If you know someone who could benefit from our service, contact us. We'll assess the situation and decide whether to help. Do you both understand and accept these terms? Lorraine asked. Yes, we do, Valeria confirmed. I need to hear it from both of you, Lorraine insisted. I agree, as long as that bastard pays for what is done, Nicholas affirmed. All right, give us time. At least 6 months. Avoid any rash actions, like your current plans. Instead, inform everyone that the police are aware of your intentions, and you've decided to hold off for now. Why 6 months? Can't you do it faster? Nicholas inquired. We can, but others are affected in this scenario. I won't disclose who or what else we have planned. When the time comes, you'll be kept in the dark about other arrangements, Lorraine explained. Lorraine and the Jonas continued their discussion for another 10 minutes. I have one request. I want to witness the moment that SOB learns what happened to him. In fact, I want to be the one to tell him, Nicholas insisted. No problem, but under one condition. You must cause no trouble between now and then, not even a speeding ticket. Understand? Lorraine stipulated. Yes, I accept that condition, Nicholas agreed. Nicholas Jones left WHC feeling elated. Next, Madame Olga arrived. Lorraine and Doris had a long-standing acquaintance. Doris, also known as Madame Olga, had helped send Juanita and Maria to a brothel in Tijuana previously. Hi, Lorraine. What can I do for you? Need help with a couple of men who need to work as prostitutes for a while? Doris asked. No, Doris. I believe I can help you instead. I've heard Richard Fitzpatrick is one of your clients, Lorraine replied. I wish he wasn't. None of my girls want to deal with him. 3 out of the last 5 I sent ended up in the ER. He likes it rough. The only reason he's still a client is because of his uncle. If I refuse his nephew's service, he'll shut me down for good, Doris explained. That's what I've heard. How would you like WHC to work its magic on both the uncle and nephew? What devilish plan do you have in mind, Lorraine? I hope it's something outrageous. It is, and here's how it goes. A few minutes later, Doris exclaimed, I know just the place. If you want something bizarre, this place specializes in the unusual. The capture of Judith Washington, Richard and William Fitzpatrick, and Clive Vander Wal was scheduled for the following weekend. Capturing Clive was straightforward. Barbara slipped a Mickey Finn into his bourbon. Within minutes, Clive was on his way to WHC. On Sunday dinner, the other 3 were captured. John added the Mickey Finn to their food. To avoid suspicion, he even Mickey Finned himself. As the 4 underwent their treatment, the other part of Lorraine's plan was set in motion. 4 days later, both Judith and Clive left WHC, believing they had just enjoyed a vacation at a health spa. They met each other in the waiting room, and within minutes, Clive asked Judith out on a date. I don't care if you're married. I want to take you out. One of my favorite sayings is, my wife is married, but I am not. Their first date was the next day. As their relationship progressed, they saw each other at least 4 days a week. On their second date, they ended up in a motel room. A month later, both asked their respective spouses for a divorce, just as Lorraine had planned. 2 months after their divorces were finalized, Clive and Judith were married. Meanwhile, Richard and William had already begun their new jobs. Exactly 1 year after their first visit to WHC, Clive and Judith returned. Also present were Richard and William, the Jonas, Barbara, John, Madame Olga, and a few of the girls Richard had sent to the ER. Lorraine greeted Clive and Judith in the waiting room. Clive spoke first. I'm not sure why we're here. It seems we had to come here for some reason. There was nothing we could do to stop ourselves from coming. I can tell you why. Both of you were programmed to show up exactly 1 year after your last visit. Today is that date. Do you also remember what the date is? It's the first anniversary of the first time I met Clive. This must be that health spa we attended. We aren't a health spa. WHC helps people with problems. Mostly we assist wives with abusive husbands, or in your case, Judith, husbands who are abused by their wives. How do you help? Clive asked. We use hypnosis to make changes in a person. Like in both your cases, we programmed you to meet, have an affair, fall in love, then divorce your spouses and marry each other. What's wrong with that? You've had your fun for a year. In a few minutes, the love in your marriage will vanish. Both of you will be trapped in a loveless marriage, unable to escape. We've programmed both of you never to seek divorce or harm your spouse. For the next 20 years or so, you'll be stuck with each other. Why? We didn't do anything, both Judith and Clive protested. Both of you abused your spouses. Judith, you even had your husband arrested, where he was assaulted in jail. I forgot to mention, starting tonight, both of you will begin abusing each other. Something to look forward to. You can't do this. I'll call my brother. He's the chief of police, and he'll handle everything. Oh, I'm afraid not. Your brother hasn't been chief of police for a year. He resigned 1 year ago tomorrow. We programmed you, Judith, not to even notice. You didn't even notice that Richard hasn't been around either. What did you do to them? We made quite a few changes in their lives. Would you like to see them now? What if I just walked over and hit you in the face? Clive threatened. Your programming ensures you only hit your wife. She's the only person you'll ever hit again. Let me see my brother and son. Follow me. They followed Lorraine to the partitioned rooms to avoid any issues. Judith saw her brother sitting in a wooden chair. She didn't notice any physical changes. What did you do to him? I don't see any changes. You wouldn't unless we allowed you to. But I can see the changes. Judith finally noticed the other 2 people in the room. She thought she recognized them but couldn't place them. You remember the Jonas? It was their son your brother beat to death. Mr. Jones wanted to be the one who made your brother aware of his new life. Nicholas asked, does he know what has happened to him? He looks perfect from here. You did an excellent job on him. No, he doesn't realize anything. As far as he's concerned, it's a year ago. Nicholas, you asked for the chance to tell him his fate, remember? You've kept your promise to stay out of trouble. Now, I'm keeping mine. He's all yours. Use the phrase, hey chief, hey chief. That will trigger his old memories, but not those of the past year. What do you mean? Judith asked. Your brother has been living in a trance for the past year, with only the memories we provided him. Today, he'll remember who he was, what he's become, and what he's done over the last year. Hey chief, Nicholas said. A confused look crossed the ex-chief's face. Where am I? What's happened? Chief, do you remember me? Asked Nicholas. You're the father of that punk kid I beat up in jail. Why are you behind that glass? Why don't you come out here and face me face to face? It's for your own safety. I might just kill you. I don't want to do that. I want you to live out the rest of your new life. I don't want to shorten it by 1 minute. What new life? The new life you've been living for the past year. I'm still confused. I am the chief of police. What are you talking about? You haven't been chief for a year. Not since you resigned. Resigned? Why would I do that? For the good of the department. That's what was stated in the letter. For a year. What have I been doing since then? Would you like to see? Yes, I would. Turn and face the full-length mirror. As he turned, Nicholas said, Wilma is a maid, Wilma is a maid. The chief started screaming as he finally got a look at his new self, a black woman in a maid's uniform. The chief screamed for 10 minutes. When he finally calmed down a little, Nicholas continued. With the hypnosis, we turned you into your worst nightmare. You're on record for hating women and blacks. So we just turned you into what you hated most. Turn me back, please. We can't. If you feel between your legs, you'll find out that you are a complete woman. As he felt down between his legs, he started screaming again. As this was going on, Judith finally saw what had happened to her brother. You can't do that to him. The first chance he gets, he will kill himself. No, he won't. We programmed him so that he can't. What did he do that was so wrong? He killed Jojo Jones, for one thing. Another, we found out that he raped every black woman prisoner who ever spent a night in his jail. As the screaming stopped, Nicholas went on. Wilma is a slut. Wilma is a slut. The chief started screaming again. Finally, the chief realized what he had been doing for the last year. For the last 10 months, he has been a maid for a black family in the South. He has been forced to do favors for the master of the house or one of his friends. There have been over 50 guests in Wilma's bedroom during this time, Judith was told. Would you like to see your son? Asked Lorraine. Yes, please. There was no hiding behind hypnotic suggestion with Robert. Judith saw what he had become. A woman of the evening, a prostitute. She was wearing a miniskirt so short you could almost see her panties even when standing up. The blouse she wore was just barely large enough to contain her 46-inch chest. Her face was heavily made up. As she strolled around the room on her 6-inch heels, Judith noticed she had no problems walking. You did this to my son. He used to enjoy playing rough with some of the local women, putting 3 of them in the ER. So, they thought it was fitting for him to experience life as a prostitute. You mean he's working as a hooker here in town? No, she's turning tricks in another state. Lorraine activated the intercom and uttered, a trick for Trixie, a trick for Trixie. Recognition dawned on Trixie's face as she saw her mother. Please make them stop. I can't live the rest of my life like this. What kind of life is he talking about? Judith turned to Lorraine. Oh, she's gained quite a reputation in her new town. They call her anything for a trick Trixie. And they mean anything. Yes, I even had to sleep with a dog while all the other girls watched. Please don't send me back, please, Robert pleaded. Sorry, can't do that. You'll continue at your current job until Madame Olga and the 3 girls you injured feel you've paid the price. With this, Lorraine said, Trixie is done, Trixie is done. A blank expression came over Trixie's face. What did you just do? Asked Judith. I just triggered his final hypnotic suggestion. He'll remember everything he's done in the past, but as far as he's concerned, Robert doesn't exist anymore. Only Trixie. What about me? What about William? Wilma is on her way back to her new home. You'll be leaving with Clive very shortly, Lorraine said, leading Judith back to Clive. As Judith rushed to her husband, she asked, Did you see what they did to my brother and son? I did, and don't worry, I'll spend every penny I have to make them pay for what they did. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. You two are completely broke. That's why it took us so long to inform you of what happened. We took everything, your company, your home, your car. Even the furniture in your house now belongs to someone else. The only things you own are the clothes on your back. Even if I'm broke, I still have friends in high places, said Clive. You mean all the judges? We've taken care of that, too. Each of your friends, every single one of them, has listened to a hypnotic tape. They all despise you. You don't have that kind of power. Why don't you try calling someone? Try Judge Palmer. He was your roommate in college, and you once saved his life. When Clive reached out to the judge, all he received was 10 minutes of relentless cursing, ending with, If you ever have the nerve to call me again, I'll have you arrested and throw away the key. You see, we do have the power. Clive continued to stare at the phone even after it was disconnected. Lorraine then declared, Clive and Judith are homeless, Clive and Judith are homeless. With that, they walked out of WHC's doors to a life on the streets. In a strange turn of events 6 months later, Barbara Vander Wal and John Washington were married. And in another twist, Nicholas Jones was elected city commissioner on the next election day, running on a platform for a better police department.